everyone, Namaste and welcome to FutureReady Nepal. आजको भिडियो चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै इन्ट्रेस्टिङ छ because we have collaborated with teacher Luke to bring to you a really good informational video about Duolingo. So if you are someone who is going to give your Duolingo test as your English proficiency test, भने यो भिडियो चाहिँ तपाईको लागि एकदमै धेरै इन्फर्मेशनल हुन्छ. If you know, teacher Luke is one of those YouTube content creators who focuses on Duolingo. उहाँले चाहिँ एकदमै धेरै एक्सटेन्सिभ भिडियोहरू बनाउनु भएको छ फर योर सक्सेस इन Duolingo. सो इफ यु आर समवन यु सुड डेफिनेटली चेक हिज च्यानल आउट. त्यसको लिङ्क चाहिँ हाम्रो डिस्क्रिप्सनमा हुन्छ. सो डु चेक द्याट आउट आफ्टर दिस भिडियो. बट यु विल गेट अ लट अफ इन्साइट एक्ज्याक्टली Duolingo कसरी प्रिपेयर गर्ने, कसरी हाई मार्क्स ल्याउने, अनि भेरियस क्वेसन्स रिलेटेड टु Duolingo. सो आई होप यु इन्जोय टुडेज कन्भर्सेसन. यो चाहिँ एकदमै एक्साइटिङ अपर्च्युनिटी थियो हाम्रो लागि पनि बिकज वी आर नाउ एबल टु ब्रिङ on the table conversations that can really help our students. So with all of that said, as a host I am before adhikari hununcha, so please show some love over there too, to him too, and please comment down if you have any like questions about Duolingo or anything that you want to ask. Next के भिडियो हेर्न चाहनुहुन्छ त्यो पनि कमेन्ट गरेर हामीलाई भन्नुहोस्. प्लिज डु फलो अस अन अल अदर सोसल मिडिया लाइक फेसबुक, इन्स्टाग्राम, टेलिग्राममा हाम्रो एकदमै राम्रो कम्युनिटी छ. सो प्लिज जोइन ओभर देयर टु एन्ड वी वुड लभ टु हेल्प यु आउट इन योर जर्नी टु स्टडिङ इन USA. With all of that said and done, आजको भिडियोमा let's enter and let's enjoy this informational video with teacher Luke. Let's get started.
हेलो एन्ड नमस्ते सबैजनालाई. आज हामी फ्युचर रेडीको नयाँ पडकास्टमा छौँ र हामीसँग एकजना यस्तो गेस्ट हुनुहुन्छ जसलाई इन्ट्रोडक्सन नै चाहिँदैन. भन्छ नि द पर्सन विथ हु रिक्वायर्स नो इन्ट्रोडक्सन एट अल. सो लेट मी लाइक नट वेस्ट एनी टाइम एन्ड वेलकम अन द स्टेज टिचर ल्युक. वेलकम टु द पडकास्ट.
Thank you so much for inviting me onto this podcast to have this discussion with you. I'm excited to share more about the Duolingo English Test and answer any questions you have.
It is such an honor to have you here, Teacher Luke. Like, I'm going to call you Teacher Luke because like you literally are my teacher. So
thank you so much. Yeah.
Without wasting any time, let's hear, like, we have a bunch of questions for Teacher Luke. So like, let's dive right into the questions. So I would like first ask you about Duolingo. Your version of introduction to Duolingo, what would that be?
Yeah, so the Duolingo English Test is a English proficiency exam. You use these exams normally if you want to go and study in an English-speaking country or work in an English-speaking country. This concept is not new. These types of tests have been around for a long time. The more well-known and traditional exams are the IELTS and TOEFL exams. And the Duolingo functions in the same way. You take this exam, you get a level of your English, and then you can apply to a university or perhaps a job in an English-speaking country. But what makes the Duolingo test different and more interesting is that it's just a more modern version of these exams. So I'm sure we'll talk about some of the key points later, but the IELTS and TOEFL, they've been around for a long time and they haven't changed much in, 20 years maybe. But the Duolingo test is a new modern version of these English proficiency exams.
Thank you so much, teacher. So moving on to the next question. So we get like lots of questions asking us that is this like, since like it's like commonly understood that the cheaper is not good, you have to pay more money to get the better version of things, right? So like we generally keep on getting questions like Duolingo is just something that you have to like, you take once and you'll have to take again, so it's not good. Universities won't accept that, so like companies won't accept that, and this type of questions. You just have to clarify this to our viewers. Is this truth or this is just a myth?
It's mostly a myth. So the Duolingo test has the same length of validity as the other exams, which is 2 years. Now, I guess what your students are concerned about is kind of the reliability of the exam when applying abroad to a university. And That's not totally a myth. The test is still new, so a lot of universities are still actually not so much anymore, but a lot of universities do accept the exam, on par with the IELTS and TOEFL. But a lot of other universities in some other countries, like maybe Australia or the UK, are still a little bit trying to catch up to date with the Duolingo test. So what my advice always is that if the university you want to apply to has the Duolingo test on its list of accepted exams, then it has no difference than the IELTS or TOEFL exam. And I know you said it's cheaper, so maybe it's less quality. I don't think so at all. I think they've just come up with a better business model to be able to offer this exam at a much lower rate. It's mostly graded by AI rather than an examiner. So of course that lowers costs, and you don't have to go to a test center. You can do it at home. That lowers costs. So I think those are the reasons why it's cheaper. But again, just to reiterate, you should always double check with the university or universities you want to apply to whether they accept the exam or not. I think almost every university in the United States accepts the exam on level as with the IELTS and TOEFL, but some other countries are still catching up, like Australia, for example.
So, what do you think? A wild random guess about future of Duolingo English Test in the admission process and stuff.
Right. So just to clarify, I'm not a representative for Duolingo. I'm not a spokesperson. I'm a teacher, but I will tell you my opinion. I think this test is going to stick around, and I think it's going to become more and more popular and more established over time. If you follow the Duolingo test social media, you can see the types of experts they are hiring in order to create this test, make the test questions, use it, adaptive technology, all of these really advanced techniques. They're hiring experts in these fields, and that just shows me that they're committed to this exam and that the exam will get better and become a lot more, recognized globally.
Okay, so having talked about the test and its futures and everything, let's come down to the test, right? So,
Okay.
when you sit and take the test, right? So it is so much annoying when the test results come invalid, right? So, what do you think like students should better prepare for?
Yeah, this is an area which I get a lot of questions about, unfortunately. So actually, one of the key features of the Duolingo English test is that you can take the test at any time and anywhere. You can take it at home, in your bedroom, in your living room, anywhere you want to. But of course, that means that you are responsible for following the rules correctly. You're not in an exam center where someone will just tell you or take your phone. You have to follow the rules yourself. So the best thing to do, honestly, is just to make sure you read and understand the rules before you take the exam. This is on the Duolingo test. They have a readiness guide. If you want to, I'll send it to you, the link, so you can put it below in the video description. And in that readiness guide, they do outline the rules pretty clearly. Now, some of the rules are a little bit hard to follow. So, for example, you have to keep your eyes focused on the screen for pretty much the whole test. You can't be looking away too much. And I think a lot of students struggle with that because, especially when you're speaking, and thinking, people do tend to look up when they're thinking. They look to the wall, look away. So you need to practice not doing that. You need to try to make sure you are able to keep your head kind of in this kind of vicinity, looking at your webcam or your screen. It takes a little bit of kind of concentration to do that, but it is important because the Duolingo test monitor whether a test taker is cheating or not by their eye movements. So it is important you're able to keep your eyes focused on the screen or webcam for most of the test. What are some other rules students break a lot by mistake? Earphones. They wear earphones, even though it says very clearly you're not allowed to wear earphones.
I was one of the guilty ones.
Oh, really? Yeah. So just the basic advice is to make sure you read all the rules carefully before you take the test, because it is your responsibility. Yeah.
So a mistake that I made was before taking the test, I was like too worried about the rules and stuff. So I went up to the YouTube I obviously watched a video on it, and with your video I watched some other videos as well, and somewhere what I saw was you have to have a mirror behind you so that there's no one in the room and stuff. So I was like so worried, and when I sat down, the app like actually tells you if you have if your ear is showing or not, if you have headphones or not, if you're looking at the screen or not. So yes, it's straightforward thing, but you have to take care of the rules, just like
Yeah, you do. That mirror myth, I hear that all the time. You don't need to have a mirror behind you. Just make sure your webcam is it quite good? Well, normal quality, decent quality. You are in a bright room like we are, so Duolingo are able to see your face when you're taking the test, and that you just follow the rules. There are too many for me to talk about. Just go over, and I can't remember them all off the top of my head. But yeah, just make sure you read the rules and follow them. And like I said, I will send you a link to the readiness guide, which you can put in this video. Then you can follow it from there.
So link in the description, people.
Yes.
So for like, I belong to a non-English speaking nation, right? So do you have any like tips or tricks or any suggestions or any specifics if that I have to follow? Because like it's actually hard for me to get comfortable with English, because like there's this thought process that what I used to do is I used to think in Nepali, translate it in English, and then speak out in English. So it took me a practice, it took me time, but now when speaking, I think in English and I speak in English, right? Yeah. So do you have any suggestions for that?
Well, in regards to the test, right? So you talk about test preparation, getting good at English to take the exam. There are two ways to prepare for the Duolingo test. The first one is to improve your general English, like you said. Keep practicing English, keep learning words, keep listening to as much English as possible to get that input. TV shows, podcasts, this YouTube channel, anything, listen to anything in English to increase your input. Use the Duolingo app, the language learning one. Like anything like that to improve your general English is step one for preparing for this exam, or the IELTS or TOEFL. That's the foundation, is your actual English level and English ability. Now, beyond that, another good way to prepare for this exam is to get really familiar with the different question types. So there are currently 13 question types on the Duolingo English test, and I strongly recommend that before you take the test, you become really familiar with them by taking lots and lots of practice questions. That's the best way to get familiar with these different question types. Especially, this is true for any exam, but I think especially for the Duolingo test, because the time limit for each of the question types is a lot shorter than on other exams. So for example, the vocabulary question on the Duolingo test, there's only 60 seconds to do it. You don't have much time. So getting used to the question types and getting used to the time limits is step two. Step three then is learning some strategies, especially for the speaking and writing questions. This is the production score question types. They are always the hardest on any English exam, because speaking and writing is the hardest skills to master in a second language. And
in this context, we can say speaking and typing, right?
Speaking and typing, yeah, sure. Yeah, speaking and typing. Yeah, exactly. They are the hardest skills to master in a second language. My second language is Korean. I lived there for several years, and my wife is Korean. And listening's fine. I understand everything, but when it comes to speaking, especially to my mother-in-law, I struggle. And writing is hard.
Exactly.
So there are strategies you can use to help you to improve your speaking and writing answers. I've made lots and lots of videos on those. You can go to my channel, but practice mainly is the main feature of those.
Yeah. Okay, so like one thing that I completely underestimated before taking this test was how do I put it? So I was lured towards it, because like this test was just an hour short, but I forgot that the questions were going to give me like less time to complete, right?
Yes.
So you have to be prepared for like giving your answers in such less time. Right?
Yeah, right, exactly. I think that's one of the key differences than the other exams is this exam only takes an hour to do, but because of that, then you don't have much time for each question.
I actually sat down for that hour and I felt like just 5 minutes passed by. I did not even feel like an hour just passed by. It like
goes
within the
really
snap
fast.
of a finger.
It's question after question after question. Is no rest. You just got to keep going. But you need to get used to and comfortable answering these questions at speed, really. And that's when practice, getting used to the test format, getting used to the test questions, and taking the free practice tests on the Duolingo website, I think are extremely important.
So now talking about the practice test and the test format. So on the Duolingo's official website, right, English test website, you get this set of practice questions, which are like similar, but they just help you practice the pattern. Because when you step into the test, everything is different.
Yeah.
So students often ask us, so what they say is like they went to practice and then they took the test and they found this vast difference. They were so nervous, they could not score. So like how to practice, how can they practice for the test like a real one? So what is your suggestion on that?
Actually, I disagree a little bit. I think the official practice test on the Duolingo test website is very similar to the actual exam. It's just much shorter because it's a practice test with like an estimated score at the end, and it takes about 15 minutes to complete. I think that's very similar to the real exam. Of course, it's a lot shorter, and that's the key difference, right? So doing a test for an hour and concentrating for an hour like that is a lot harder and a lot more stressful than just 15 minutes. So my actual advice, if you want to get the real test experience, is to do the official practice test. On the other hand, I have a website, it's DETready.com, and we have a practice platform. Now, we don't offer full tests because we're not able to provide an accurate score. And only Duolingo can do that, let's make that clear. Only Duolingo are able to provide accurate estimated scores. So because of that, we decided not to offer full tests. Rather, we have thousands of practice questions where students can log on, choose a question type, and get practice and familiarity with that particular question type. That's a great resource. We got a lot of feedback on that, a lot of positive feedback. But like you said, in terms of a real exam, to be honest, I think the official Duolingo test website is the best option. And it's reliable. Of course,
exactly.
You know it's reliable, it's official.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll have the link to Teacher Luke's website on the description below.
Thank
so
you.
Make sure to check that out as well. So yes, so moving on to next question, right? So it is one of my favorite questions because like students here, like they don't actually understand what an adaptive test format is because like, let's be honest, we did not know that you could like sit down online and take a test before actually the first lockdown hit us. Right. So the lockdown changed many lives. It changed like perspective of many people. So this is something that people find it hard to believe. So could you please like briefly describe about like the adaptive test format of Duolingo for our viewers?
Yes, it's not a problem. So let's first talk about what a non-adaptive or traditional exam is. So this is something we all have experience with. So imagine the IELTS, TOEFL exam, any school exam you took, you're given a piece of paper and the questions are the same for every person, regardless of your level or ability in that subject matter, in English in this case, your questions will be the same as mine. Okay, you can see some issues with that.
Exactly.
So what Duolingo have been able to do, because their test is done online and using AI technology, is create an exam which is an adaptive test. So basically what that means is as you're going through the test, if you start answering questions perfectly or really well, then the next set of questions will become more difficult because they're changing to your level. They become more difficult and they test you again at this more difficult level. So and of course, vice versa is true. If you are answering questions wrong, the questions you get will become easier. And you can imagine as you're going through the test, you're answering up, you're going down a bit, you're going up a bit, and at the end, this is your level. so to
It's
speak.
like playing a video game, right? So you start at
Yeah,
level 0 and you go to 1,
exactly.
or you go to level 2, come down to 1, and
Exactly.
when you're done, that's the
That's your
final
level.
score where
Yeah.
you, if you have met the princess or not. Like, let's
Yeah,
say
yeah,
in Mario.
exactly. Mario. But I think in terms of students taking an exam, I don't think you should think too much about that or worry too much about that, because it's beyond your control, like what type of question you'll get or how the adaptive technology works. Just do your best, make sure you answer each question as well as you can. But I guess you do know if you think the questions are getting harder and you're probably thinking you're answering them incorrectly, then that might not be a bad thing, right? Because it means you've done well previously. That makes sense, because the hard questions have got harder. So just focus on doing each question type as well as you can. Don't think too much about it. Focus on yourself and your own ability. That's my general advice to that.
Thank you so much, teacher. So coming on towards our last but not the least, and also one of my favorite questions, right? So, like, could you please help us enlighten about this production sub score? Because even
Okay.
I could not score good at that section, and many students get low marks in that section. So, how do we prepare, we improve ourselves for this section?
Yeah, this is not surprising because the production subscore, not for you particularly, your English is amazing.
Thank you
But I
so
mean,
much.
but particularly, generally speaking, in a second language, the hardest skills to master are speaking and writing. That's not new. Everyone knows that. People can listen, people can read well. That's typically like those are easier skills to master. Speaking and writing, production are a lot harder. And this is shown in the other exams too. In the IELTS test, typically the lowest scores for test takers of the IELTS exam are in the speaking and writing sections. And it's the same for Duolingo. The production score is probably the hardest to achieve or to get the high score on, because speaking and writing is difficult. So some tips, right? That's what you want.
Exactly. I'm waiting
Okay,
for that.
so you can speak really well, but you said your production score wasn't fantastic.
Yes, so I took this, like, to be
Yeah.
fair, I took this year and a half ago. So
Okay. So yeah. So
I've come a
basically,
long way from
yeah.
there.
Well, okay. So how did you improve? Did you practice a
So
lot,
yes,
speaking a lot, writing a lot?
I have been, like, interacting with tourists and stuff,
Yeah, exactly.
talking to people in English. That's
Yeah.
what I've been doing.
Yeah, so step one is to continuously try to improve your speaking and writing. And you can do that through practice, through other techniques. For speaking, for example, through shadowing. There's lots of lessons on YouTube for shadowing where you can listen to a native speaker, repeat after them. Lots of ways to improve your speaking in that way. From writing to practice, you can use AI tools now to get feedback on your writing, really accurate feedback as well. So generally speaking, you should always be trying to improve your English, speaking and writing included. Beyond that, though, if you want to kind of practice and prep for the Duolingo test specifically, then there are some key things you should be focusing on when you are practicing and preparing. So the criteria for the speaking and writing, I'm going off the top of my head here, but there are a few key points. Firstly, there's vocabulary. So how accurate and how diverse your vocabulary usage is in your speaking and writing answers. Then, of course, your grammar, how correct and complex your grammar is when you're writing answer and speaking answer. Task relevance, how well you're able to actually answer the question you're provided. Like, how well is your answer structured? Do you cover some key points? Do you go into details? These type of things. And of course, then we have fluency, which normally includes your speaking pace and flow, and in writing, probably the amount of words you're able to write. So understanding the scoring criteria is a really good starting place for your preparation. I've made a lot of videos on production. That's what I focus on mostly, because that is the hardest sub-score for students to master. I cover a few strategies students can use to improve their speaking answers. So rather than me go over here, watch those videos. Some strategies, some techniques, some kind of templates you can use as well. All of this stuff is useful preparation. But the main thing you can do is just to practice your English.
Exactly. So let me tell this to the viewers who have like skipped to the end, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so this one is for you that if you guys like felt you need to improve your English and stuff, you don't have to worry about anything. You miss nothing here in podcast because everything that we talk today, Teacher Luke already has everything in his channel. So you guys can go check it out. The link is in the description, so make sure you do that. And having said that, we have come to the end of this podcast. It was such a blast talking to you. I was like, I was on the ninth cloud. Not even the seventh, I was on the ninth. So it was a fan moment. It was so great talking to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
No, my pleasure.
If
You've
you
been a
have
great
like
host as well.
any,
It'll be very, very nice to talk to you. Yeah.
thank you so much. So if you have like any suggestions, anything, short, sweet, anything, long, to our
Oh,
viewers.
yeah. I
the
guess
mic is
my main suggestion to test takers is don't worry too much, right? Like if you stress so much when you're taking the exam, then you're going to it's going to hurt your score just from your worrying. So try to relax before you take the test. Drink lots of water, get ready, get mentally prepared, and just do your best. And if you don't worry too much, you'll do better than if you're stressing. I meet a lot of test takers and just so overwhelmed and so stressed. And the main thing to do in that case is try to calm down, relax, take a deep breath, and just do your best.
Exactly. So in the at the last, I would like love if you could add a Nepali touch to it and
Yeah.
in this podcast saying namaste. If you
Yeah,
could.
sure. Yeah.
Namaste, namaste
You like this?
नेपालको सबैजनालाई. Do
You,
this.
you do it first, and I'll
Okay,
copy you.
so namaste is a greeting, right? So you
Yeah.
can do it when in the starting or you can do it in the end. So like namaste, dhanyabad
Yeah.
सबैजनालाई. This is all you have to say.
One more time, sorry. Namaste.
Namaste and dhanyabad. That means thank you. That translates to thank you.
Yeah.
सबैजनालाई, to everyone.
Okay.
धन्यवाद सबैजनालाई.
So namaste, Don Yelabab.
सबैजनालाई.
Wow.
You
I
tried,
can't do
man.
that. One more time.
धन्यवाद
Don Yelabab.
सबैजनालाई.
Zobe Zanalag. That's new
You
to
try,
me.
man.
Thank you. Well, thank you
No
for teaching
worries.
me. Do you know what I'll do? I'll download Nepalese. I'll use the
Sure.
Duolingo for Nepalese.
I would
get better
love
next
to
time.
have you here in Nepal, and I would love to show you around. The food here is amazing. The places here are amazing. If you ever plan on visiting Nepal, we have you covered, man.
Thank you so much. I would love to one day.
So
Thank
that
you so
was
much.
Teacher Luke. And having said that, I would like to end the podcast here. Thank you everyone for watching, and please keep on watching. Subscribe to the channel, comment, like, share, anything you want to do. So yes, that's me. This is Bivor signing off. Bye bye.